Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Sea Stories. It's great to be here with you all. I'm Duncan Hood, and I have got a real treat for us today, um, courtesy of the Great Chesapeake Bay Schooner Race and, of course, the American Schooner Association. This is a series where I like to find people who are out in the world actually doing what an awful lot of us simply dream of doing. And tonight we're going to be talking to Behan and Jamie Gifford all the way in, take it kids,
We are in Okinawa, Japan.
through the magic of the internet. It's lovely. I love that.
It's pretty awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's totally awesome. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we will be running a chat and uh, a chance for you to do questions and answers as we go in. So what I'd like to do, if we could now, is run down our chat. If you guys could hang on a second here.
I love
Uh,
seeing where everyone's from in the chat. That's awesome.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
Samantha,
Type
hi,
in where you're
Brenda,
from on the chat and
and
say,
Janet
here we
J,
go.
Sandy,
Yay.
uh,
Isn't it fun? Just great.
maybe Kendall and Matt.
Oh man, I totally love that. Look at all this great stuff.
Jessica, hello. Suffolk, Virginia. Um,
Annapolis. Hi, Michael.
last in Annapolis.
Thank goodness gracious me. I love that. Well, isn't that great? Looks like everything's working. Oh, what are the chances of that? Fantastic.
No, it's great. It's great. It's
Oh,
really
it's
fun
so
seeing everybody.
wonderful.
Hi, Gina.
Well, I want to welcome you all and thank you so much, Bien and Jamie, for joining us. You have been doing this for, if I am right, 18 plus years. Am I right?
17 plus. It's our 18th now. I don't want to overinflate
18.
it.
You don't
But
overinflate it. I love that. I love that.
yeah, we
And
left in August 2008.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you guys have done a book, right, about cruising with your kids.
Yeah.
And now look at
Yeah.
you.
I co-authored with two other cruising parents because we
Yeah.
felt like a wider view was important to help other families launch.
I cooked while she wrote.
And may that
That's
continue.
cute.
I
You did,
totally
you did,
love
but
that.
that's great.
Well, you guys are living the dream. A lot of us have. So I want to hear all about it. Let's start out, if we could. Let's do your share screen and we will take away. Ladies and gentlemen, as we get going, feel free to comment. If you do have questions, put them in the Q&A and we will handle them as we go. All right, my
Yeah.
friends. Whoa, where are we here?
Thank you so much, Duncan. So here, actually, we are in Micronesia, not just the region, but the country, the Federated States of Micronesia, Yap State, on a little atoll called Lamatrek. And that became actually a really special, kind of pivotal place for us this year that shaped a lot of how our year unfolded in some really remarkable ways. This picture would have been taken in early March.
That's wonderful. Great
Yeah.
picture. Yeah.
Yeah, so, but thank you so much, Duncan. We appreciate you, the Great Chesapeake Bay Schooner Race, the American Schooner Association. It is really truly a pleasure for us to be able to come hang out with a bunch of salty folks, tell some stories, maybe stretch a few, I don't know,
Totally
and
get it.
answer
Totally
any
get it.
questions. We've got a bunch of prepared material, but anything anyone wants to ask us, please feel free. We'll be keeping an eye both on the webinar chat, but actually, if you can use the Q&A, that's super helpful
Yeah.
for us to be able to make
Bien,
sure we like.
can you see the Q&A right now, Bien?
I don't. Let
We
me
don't.
let me open it up. But because we will monitor
All
that
right. Well, I
through.
can do that too for you. So we'll get going.
And Jill, excellent spot on seeing those transponders are next
Yes.
to us. Yep, they wash up and they get used for other purposes in islands like this.
Yeah, and yeah, I love that that got called out. Stephen, we will definitely talk about money in a little bit, and I'm gonna postpone answering your excellent question while we talk about a few things. But yeah, we figured sort of one of the things we do today is talk about, in general, things that are really important to successfully go cruising. Because as Duncan pointed out, maybe you're here with us because you're going to walk down memory lane for some places that you've already been, but maybe, just maybe, you're part of the crowd that is in the dreaming phase and maybe making some plans. So we thought that might be useful and use that as a way to talk about how it's different for us now as empty nest cruisers compared to when we got started as a family.
Love it.
Some time ago now, it
Yeah,
seems.
some time
So yeah,
ago.
I grew up cruising in Connecticut, out in the Mystic River.
Your Where I Came From pictures officially look very dated, by the way, honey.
Yeah, I know. I'm feeling it. I sailed with my family. We would cruise to Newport and Block Island and Long Island and in the region. And I turned out I liked sailing a lot and ended up becoming a sailmaker and was involved in some amazing programs, including the America's Cup and the Whitbread and the Vendée Globe and all of that.
Boy Meets Dream.
But before then, I read Dove when I was 11, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I liked sailing at that point, and I got to race professionally and all, but it was this cruising dream that stuck with me.
I got into sailing through fashion, actually.
Of course.
Well, no, but my dad did put me in a really cute little sailor suit there. That's me sitting in my dad's lap in San Francisco, probably early 1970. And that is me with the bad 80s hair on the sunfish in the family photo. I fell in love with sailing as a way to find freedom as a teenager. And then I met Jamie when I was 18. And actually, I was going to try, we've got a picture. We met racing on a J35 in Long Island Sound. Peregrine, if anyone happens to be from the area. And that was the beginning for me of like a whole different way of looking at sailing. I loved sailing at that point. I was racing collegiate. But the idea that you could take a boat and go live on it and go anywhere, because having finished high school overseas, I really just wanted to travel. I had this huge wanderlust, and I didn't realize you could put them together. And there's the book. There's the book I co-authored that we mentioned earlier. Yeah. But we ended up doing this together. And it still is like a pinch me to look at this slide and see that red line that we traced around the world. This is what we did as our family. All five of us leaving. You can see kids on the left, pretty small. That was in Alameda as we got ready to really launch with the kids on board. Jamie and I brought the boat down the coast without them. And then at the bottom, that's about a month after we finished our circumnavigation, just before our son left to go to college. Yeah, and circumnavigating was never the goal, by the way. Never the goal until it was really close. And then we were like, you know what?
Okay, it was my secret.
Okay, it was Jamie's secret goal.
But don't tell anyone you're going to circumnavigate.
Yeah, no, that is actually a critical secret to success. Don't claim that you're going to do it. Just go quietly do it.
And then have fun. And if you happen to stumble around the world, then well, awesome. But it's not a downside if you don't make it all the way
Yeah.
around.
So now it's just the two of us. We relaunched again just about 2 years ago after a refit with all three kids migrated to land. Some in college still, some now post grad and working. And it is a whole different kind of adventure. And you'll notice this is not a route we took the first time. We're so far completely carving a different path once we left Mexico by sailing through the North Pacific. We did a more conventional South Pacific route previously, but it's kind of cool. It's we'll talk more about it in a bit, but we are able to really pursue what we want to do as opposed to having to think about the needs of five different people. It's really a discussion between us as a couple instead.
With one giant downside, which is now
No, the kids
we
are
have to
far
take
away.
the garbage out,
Oh,
and
no, I was
now
gonna
we
say-
have to clean the boat bottom, and these other
That's
chores
funny.
that
We have
got
really
shared.
different answers to the downside. I'm like, oh, the kids aren't here. Yes, they did also help a lot. Yeah. And actually, it's not fair to say only two because we have a four-footed family member now. Yeah, my empty nest curve parenting arc has been that I now have a cat child, so that's Panchita. And she joined our crew in Mexico. She's a former street cat. We don't think she has any idea how lucky she is, but she's incredibly lucky. And here we are. This is where we're sitting right now. That's our main cabin on Totem with a planning chart there for the Pacific. And this is, almost 2 years ago, this picture, and thinking about where we were going to go, where we were going to head. But our world now is actually juggling very different priorities than we did as a family. As a family, it was really bigger picture route planning, the community of kid boats, trying to figure out just how broke we actually were. We spent a lot of time being very broke, and how long then we could keep cruising because cruising wasn't something we had actually planned to do indefinitely. It was a sabbatical that then we just hoped to try to figure out how to keep extending. Um, and now it's different. Now it's just the two of us and actually a business that we run from the boat, coaching people who want to go cruising. We can talk more about that in a bit, but the net of it is we are just unfathomably fortunate, unfathomably fortunate to be able to do something we love and support it with work that we love and feel that we contribute to this greater good of helping people get out by boat because I think it makes the world a better place and us better people. And I'll get all mushy if I keep talking about it, so I'm going to move on. Truly. And Stephen, you continue with the awesome questions. Let's actually talk about that a little bit. How we chose our boat, and did we have more than one as our needs changed?
With the perfect slide to show our boat.
Yeah,
So
there's Totem.
Totem is a 1982 Sparksman Stevens designed Stevens 47. Stevens 47. Stevens is a different person than Sparksman Stevens. But we had in Puget Sound before Totem a Hallberg Rossi 352 as kind of a starter boat. Coming from a racing performance background, the idea of sailing with family, it was like I shifted up and I wanted a boat that you could drive into a brick wall and it was going to bounce off and say, I'm fine. And the HR 352 was a great boat, but what we also found in it is that it needed a lot of wind to be able to sail slowly. And so we kind of added some element of performance as important into our algorithm for choosing a boat. And so for us, Stevens 47 kind of fit what we're looking for
And fit our budget.
and fit the budget. It's regarded as a blue water boat and a tough boat and all of these kind of dogmatic ideas and what voyaging should be in the boat that you're supposed to go in. And that's largely why we chose it. It had safety. It's billed as sea kindly, although I would argue that that's a misguided term.
Note the 70s era design bow and the fine angle of entry. That actually does not lend itself to sea kindly. The modern, more plumb bows and higher volume bows are much more helpful.
Yeah,
in
the
that
raked
way.
bow and the narrow bow entry means we bury our bow when we're going upwind in choppy conditions pretty regularly, and that's not kind at all. Um, but so that's why we ended up with this boat, and Totem's been awesome, and we just spent 2.5 years doing a major refit on Totem, so we're pretty committed to staying on this boat. Although if we were looking for a new boat now, I think we would have different parameters that we would bake into the boat. We would worry less about it being of this blue water pedigree that people put that label on, and it would be more about a boat that has even more performance. I'm not saying that from my racing background. I'm saying that because
It's safe.
being able to get from A to B in less time is
Yeah.
safer than more time.
And we had that impressed on us kind of firsthand. When we crossed the South Pacific, we had two buddy boats, and the three of us were wildly different. And we were in the middle, actually. And so there's Totem, the sort of performance-ish monohull, and then there was a Baba 30, which is a decidedly like slow and steady wins the race kind of boat. And there was a Nordhaven 64, which is I'm just going to burn the diesel, point and go to from A to B. Wildly different, right? And we would have very different durations on our A to B passages crossing the Pacific. And, for us, maybe fairly typically it would be like 3 days between island groups. And for the Baba, it'd be 5 days. And for the Nordhaven, it'd be like, yeah, exactly. So, and what that gets you is outside of a dependable weather window and more uncertainty.
Yeah. And Totem does well. Our top speed sailing Totem, we've hit 17.3 knots on 3 occasions. So we know how to make the boat go,
This does not make me happy
especially
necessarily.
when
I'm just
there's
going to say that.
some fun surfing waves. But
Yeah, whatever.
yeah, we're committed to Totem.
Yeah. But I hope that answered your question. And we'll certainly actually talk more about the boat in a little bit. But Totem was the one and only. We did consider briefly leaving on that Hallberg Rossi, but we would have outgrown it because our kids would have gotten big enough that they didn't have enough space. So thank goodness we left on the boat that we did.
Yeah, scalability is important.
Really important. Crew morale, committed crew. So we think of cruising successfully also as this like three-legged stool, right? And one of the legs is money. We'll talk about that in a bit. One of the legs is you got to be healthy enough to do it. And we're not actually going to talk about that, but feel free to hit us up. But the other one is everyone has to want to be there. And it's pretty common that you've got someone who's really keen to do this and a partner who's like, I support you, honey, but maybe isn't as enthusiastic. So, like, how do you get to the committed crew place? And um, people may have very different ideas of what they want. They may want the like our adventure and here I go. Like, did you just hear Jamie talking about surfing down waves? And then you may have someone who's more interested in kind of the BVI's vacation version, and that I think is the only time we actually had umbrellas in our drinks, and so we had to take a picture. But you know what I'm talking about.
The important part is that there's something for everyone on the boat.
Yeah. Jamie
And
loves the sailing. I love the cool stuff on land. And this, by the way, this was a donkey-based pub crawl in Lesotho,
Lesotho is
Africa.
this little tiny round country inside of South Africa. It's at 9,000 feet. And yes, we rode donkeys through town to bar
You
hop.
can't drunk drive a donkey. Anyway, it was. I think this captures though a little bit of like some of the differences. Turns out I love passages, but it's not my raison d'etre for cruising either. Um, with kids, it was a little different in a way. With kids, the committed crew is, well, kids need to be happy. And when we left, when they were young enough that their whole world more or less centered around parents. And so it was a lot easier to embark with younger kids. Like teenagers, their self-worth starts to be defined more by their peer circle outside of the family. And so it's a lot more challenging with teens to launch. But what we had to manage though was their happiness to make sure they remained part of that committed crew as they grew. Cruising with kids has that added complication of kind of driving your route then to be with other kids because at some point you just aren't enough. And that peer community is important and that you cannot actually sufficiently meet that with the local kids that they meet on the way. They need some consistency. But it does kind of work out, and that's a really lame, short way to gloss over it, but it does kind of work out as long as you're paying attention to that and as long as you care. And meanwhile, kids open doors. Kids are disarming. I mean, here we are. Her name's Dorcas. I have such great memories of Dorcas. And this is probably November 2012.
In
Wow,
Papua
it's
New
been a
Guinea.
while. And Booty Booty Atoll. And, you know, we commented and complimented some of the pandanus weaving and the kids were asking questions about it. And the next thing you know, Dorcas is like, how about I teach you? And so then the next day was unrolling mats and breaking out pandanus and learning how to weave pandanus. Sometimes the other kids weren't around and we had to like figure out how to have our own party on the boat and keep it fun. This is when we were in Indonesia in 2013 and we went in knowing and it was almost like a discussion with the kids like, hey kids, by the way, next 6 months we're kind of going to be on our own. We're on this track that means no other cruising boats, much less kid boats. We'll make the most of it, but at the other end we'll be back within community.
Yeah, and please nobody share with our children that we use this slide in the presentation because they may
No.
not love it.
Actually, that's a really important comment though. Jamie's joking, but I think in all seriousness, like it's really it bums me out to see kids being used as fodder for attracting attention online and it happens a lot and I didn't appreciate that when they were young. And as I got older and we realized how much our digital selves own us in the future too, we started making sure every single image they got to vet. They got to say yes or no. Yeah. Oh, and then there's this kid. So that's the new kid, right? And now she does drive our routing a little bit. I think she's a committed crew. But it's really complicated actually going through different countries with cats. or dogs, and that has been a whole learning curve for us.
Yeah, especially in the North Pacific.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I'm happy to talk to anyone about that on the side. But yeah, so now with just Jamie and I in the boat, coincidental that Jamie is wearing the same shirt in those pictures, but yeah, we don't have a deep wardrobe. But having a really great time together, and I think maybe it's a bit of a testament to as well to living on a boat forces you to be able to communicate. You can't be bad communicators and survive, have your relationship survive for long on the boat. And yep, it's our 18th year. I think we figured something out, and we're just having a really good time out here, wondering what to do next that feeds each of us in the ways that we need to be fed to be happy. And these are both in Japan within the last few months. So on the right, that's a awesome little fishing village called Ine. If you were on our email list and got our email to advertise this event today, you saw the picture of Totem backed by Ine. It's absolutely picturesque. And on the left, we're actually in an uninhabited island. Where is that? It's like right between Honshu and Hokkaido, the straits up in the north. Ripping current goes by, and there's nobody that lives here. And this island was kind of unique.
It's the smallest volcanic island in the world, is what it gets billed at.
It's like the size of a city block.
Yeah, it's a tiny little island, but yeah.
And there's nothing there but this excellent fishing harbor, which actually, to your why Japan question in a second, it is astonishing the level of infrastructure for boats in Japan in terms of how robust it is, like the level of investment that an uninhabited island has this incredibly protected little harbor for boats to take refuge in, basically, but that Japan invests in that heavily. Japan for us partly, relates to that committed crew thing. I mean, it was just a place we wanted to go. Our mentors, Jim and Diana Jesse, had been here in the 90s, and they just raved about it. And we were hoping to fly out and meet them, and then I think I got pregnant, and that plan fell apart. But Japan, they just talked about it, and I remember eating okonomiyaki that Diana made on Nalu a few years later, and we just always had it in the back of our minds as a cool place to go. Totally not a family-friendly destination because we're one of just a handful of cruising boats here. There's not community in that sense.
There are kid boats,
Yeah.
but we found this amazing place where we're here now almost 6 months, and we've applied to get a long stay visa to allow us to be here for another year, and hoping that comes through in the next 10 days, or we have to fly back to the US to get the visa. Otherwise, if it's within the 10 days, we can pick it up here. But
So we might be back for the holidays. We don't know. We'll find out. Yeah, so Aram, your question about what's involved in the 2-year refit and where do we do that? That's actually, we're going to get into that a little bit right now, talking about getting gone and kind of what that looks like now. Obviously, you can't leave without a boat. And when you're preparing for departure, the boat is sort of this one very critical part. You also have to have a plan and be able to execute against that plan. And there's all kinds of like physical and emotional labor that goes into that. We think a really good way to stay motivated is to set a date, a month and a year, and then post that somewhere you're going to see it. This is actually one of our coaching clients when we from a couple of years ago when we pushed them to like commit to a date, because without that date, you kind of don't make a plan, and it always is rolling out there in the future. I'm going to go in another couple of years. It's always another couple of years. It's
always
very easy to always be another couple of years.
until you have a date and start living to it, the date can change. To be clear, it can be flexible, but you need something to work towards.
Yeah. So, and this was our date, and to that end, we made our cruising plan, and this was the advice of our mentors to set that date and to live that date and to have it somewhere we could see it. And our go date was when we worked for. We set it in 2002. We hatched the plan when our second child was born, 2002, and it was a 5-year plan. Does anyone see a math problem here? 5-year plan, 2002. Yeah. Okay. So we had a surprise third child, and that pushed the plan out a year because we wanted a bigger boat. We wanted a little more money to be able to make it happen. And I see someone says we have gone to meet. Oh, there. Okay. We're back.
I think we're back.
Fingers crossed.
But yes, surprise third child, and so we waited an extra year. We made it a 6-year plan, but that August 2008, which we had posted where we could look at it and be reminded of it, it's stuck, and I think it's really important to do that. This was the boat we almost left on, our 35-foot Holbergrassi 352, and it was great for building happy memories in Puget Sound, but it was not the one that we wanted to go on. And just to backing out the plan, like be diligent, do your due diligence. We help folks put plans together, and this is some of the passes that we have taken at breaking down. If you're starting with a blank sheet of paper, where do you begin? Where do you begin to make that plan to go cruising? But in terms of the
This
refit,
this was our ready to go
Aaron, this
boat.
is refit number one. Yeah, this was our ready to go boat. Literally. I mean, it was pitched that way. It had just done a lap of the Pacific. We think Totem had circumnavigated previously, but at any rate, it had been refit in the late 90s, done an early 2000s Pacific lap, anyway. Um,
And
and so we're buying this ready to go boat. Why does it look like this?
yeah, but then you dig into it and you find the ready to go boat, turnkey and she knows the way and all of this sort of marketing garbage. It's never that.
No.
And it turned out there was a lot more involved in getting truly ready than we imagined, and this was a big learning curve in that process. But
Yeah.
we did actually leave on
Yeah,
the
Aaron,
date
they
that
don't
we
exist.
that we set, August 21st,
2008,
2008.
our cruise anniversary.
And
We celebrate it every year.
this wasn't that long before that
No, no,
departure.
this is fairly close to departure, as chaotic as that appears. Yeah, and the thing is, here's sort of a spoiler too. This isn't even the hard part of leaving. The boat is actually the not hard part of leaving. The harder part is like wrapping up your land life and the emotional work that can be involved with that. That typically trips people up even more. And I'm getting to the refit. And here's where we finally left. This is our departure day from Bainbridge Island. We both look younger and have more hair. And our kids were, sweet things. This is when we sailed under the Golden Gate Bridge after they joined us, and we did our family launch at that point. So after you leave, the work continues, of course, and
Really?
I know. And the kids, they're all obviously watching Jamie fix our water maker in this picture.
I was installing it.
But actually, they're super hands-on. That's our youngest, who they became very adept at winch servicing, and we're very proud of it. And they're in that I think it's in San Blas 2018. They're in the middle. There's our son helping get a wind turbine up, probably Malaysia 2013, and working on through hulls in Thailand. But they're part of it all the way. That work goes on after you leave too. There's the refit one, and then there's like the ongoing maintenance, which can actually spill over into feeling very refit-like at times.
Yeah, we did two haul outs in Thailand
Yeah.
and did notable amounts of work there. And then this photo is when we launched after the long refit that we did.
And Aaron, that was in Puerto Peñasco, Mexico, which is at the very northern end of the Sea of Cortez, Mexican state of Sonora. It's about an hour and a half south of the Arizona border.
And what was involved? What wasn't
What
involved is
wasn't
maybe the
involved?
question. So
Yeah,
Totems,
I need to skip ahead a couple to show that actually. Yeah,
yeah,
right. We started here. Why would we mess with that? Except like this is not that long before this.
yeah.
We had a boat that had already like
And
done the thing.
apparently
We were
leaving me
thinking,
alone in the boat for too long
bad
and
idea.
things,
This is what happens when you have a pandemic in the shipyard.
yeah. Our refit started with this need for repowering a new engine because our Yanmar had it was still functional and it still worked well, but it leaked coolant, no, oil into the coolant, and it was not a fixable problem. It wasn't a head gasket or anything. It was internal failure, and because we wanted to go far still, we needed a reliable engine, so it was time for a new one. And as we got into this, things expanded because you find that the shower pan leaked water over to the lower part of the bulkhead that was then rotten. And our hull, which we've been deferring for a long time, really did need to be painted. And on and on and on
We're
until,
really okay with being the scruffy boat. I mean, we could look at different nicks in that boat and say, I remember
yeah.
that canoe.
But part of the duration and the scope of our refit was because it was during COVID. Our kids were transitioning from living with us to going to university, and then being independent. And so it was good to be in the same continent as they were for that. And then elder care. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of transitioning happening in our world, and we had the time to do that,
hmm
and it worked out.
Helping my mom with her transition to memory care and beyond, and my dad with the next chapter in his life and all that. And it was really good. We did like 6 road trips from Mexico to the Northwest and back.
Yeah.
Bought and sold a car to kind of help facilitate.
Anybody who's thinking of buying a fixer-up upper boat, though, unless you have a lot of boat work experience and you know what you're getting into, don't do it. I've
Yeah.
done a lot of boat work over
Our boat was
decades.
not a fixer, and yet,
Yeah.
yeah.
But old boats have old boat problems, and
This is the glamorous side of cruising.
yeah.
And it can feel elusive, and folks with project boats can often feel so literally ground down by the
I
process.
I also
That was a pun. Sorry.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I also did the not necessary, but why not open up the can of worms even bigger? And we, for years, had this dream of having a transom that you could walk up instead of this side step to get out of the dinghy.
Oh yeah.
That was always awkward to be able to swim
I'm
up
going to go back to that.
and
Look at that sexy swim step Jamie built. This was a reverse transom, so just a solid plain fiberglass, and he made that swim step in the
yeah.
steps at the
So,
back.
so you're not really doing a refit until it's 110 degrees outside and you're hanging on the back of the transom with one hand holding the rail and the other an angle grinder cutting large holes in your boat. That's when you know you're really into a refit.
Oh God.
Everybody thought I was crazy. It did come out
Yeah.
nice, if I do say so.
Michael, UC West Systems, been learning about Total Boat products. Any preference?
I think Total Boat is fine. I have a preference for West System just because they've done epoxy well for 50 years or more, and Total Boat's gotten known because they give a lot of product to YouTubers, and that's fine. I did a class in Annapolis a couple of years ago, a fiberglassing class, and Total Boat sponsored it. They were awesome. I think it's a nice product.
The crew to work with were good
Yeah,
people.
yeah, they were good. So
I think the one, from the bystander's point of view, because I am not our fiberglass worker, I have tools. The West Systems has really thought through how to make it easier, not foolproof, but easier to measure things correctly and mix them right and get that.
Total Boat has
right.
those
Have
as
they?
well.
Okay.
They do. But if you prefer Total Boat, I think that's just fine. I think ultimately just know
Oh, by the drum.
yeah.
We should have done that. We went by the like.
We
We could have used.
I think we went through 40 gallons of epoxy in that refit. But just know the products and understand them from the base of the exothermic reaction when you mix the two parts together to how to thicken epoxy and what makes it strong and what does it stick to well and surface preparation. Yeah.
So here's the pre-refit, right? And then we've got, Jamie, oh boy. Here's post. Like this is where we are now. It's wildly different. Like, and we love it.
And
It's
and,
not for everyone.
and yes, it's still not finished.
Yeah. We could list the many ways that we have a punch list remaining. But we really love the redesign in the sense of the look and feel below and how we could make things functional for us in ways that were important for us, knowing after all of these years of living on the boat what we would tweak. There's a happy kitty down at the bottom there. And some little things I guess I would call out. One is I worried that a little that having the light below, the light color below would make it too bright. Nope, not a problem. I used to think it was really nice to have our wood interior as a retreat from the tropical sun. It's still a retreat, and it's really made for the space to be pretty lovely too. But I think we're going to take a little commercial break here.
This is a pitch to ask you to join us at the American Schooner Association. Founded in 1972, the American Schooner Association is dedicated to the history, preservation, and promotion of the schooner rig. You don't need to be a schooner owner to join the organization, just to be interested in these beautiful boats. As time marches forward, the role that schooners played in the history of our country is fading too. Your membership helps support educational programs and provides a base for preserving these vessels. So, join us. It's inexpensive, important, and we'd love to have you along. We'll see you at amschooner.net.
My share is stopped. Let's get back. We're talking to Behan and Jamie Gifford of Sailing Totem. What do you got, guys?
All right, so a question that just popped up, that this is perfectly timely to answer here, is what material was the cabin sole made of? So the cabin sole here is actually original. It's one of the things we didn't touch in the main cabin. It's teak and juniper, and it has issues, not the teak itself, but actually the subfloor, which we have shored up and are postponing dealing with. But yeah, our awesome 82, sturdy and stout blue water boat actually still needs stuff to be addressed.
But sections of the cabin sole were not good. And these boats were made, and there's kind of a flaw, which was the subfloor was plywood, and it extended from one end of the boat inside to the other end. And if you had any area where water could get to, and it's a boat, the water flows through the plywood absorbs it, and then starts delaminating and rotting. And we had areas where that was happening. And so some sections of our cabin sole now are cork. You can see that a little bit in
at the far right over here in our galley, but also just below Jamie's feet there. And we have an article, it's going to be in the January issue of Cruising World, with some of the before, middle, and after stages of installing cork in Totem. We put cork in a lot of the cabins, actually, and kind of love it.
Yeah, so it's rebuilding the subfloor and then
sort of see there.
doing the cork. We also have one cabin in the forward head that is river stone tiles, and it came out really well.
Pretty lovely to walk on. Yeah. But that work of refit doesn't end when you launch, of course. This is several years after launch where we realized that the refrigerator insulation was original and insufficient. It was, blow-in stuff that was actually water saturated. And
open cell foam that absorbs water condensation, and then it's a conductor, not an insulator. And you can see that I was not happy having to do what I was doing there, but ripped out the entire fridge box and built a new one.
But the point is, we do all this work for the magical payoffs, right? We do this so that we can hike the ridge in Onaho and look back at our boat in the bay.
Marquesas.
In the Marquesas, yeah. And we do this so that we can be in that perfect anchorage and experience it. With here, this was coming back actually after having swum with giant mantas on the far side of the bay. Oh, there they are. I did put that picture in there. Just out of reach, just tantalizing. Or the whale sharks. This is up in Mexico and Bahia de Los Angeles. But I feel like we chased whale sharks around the world. We finally actually got to share our water column with them in Mexico. And these things don't change, family, empty nester, whatever. We get to be a little more selfish about the joys that we're choosing and the experiences that we're chasing. And here we are receiving our gifts to send us off. They have a it's like a ceremony, shosho is called, and the intention is it's called to put weight in the canoe, and weight in the canoe is food that will sustain people. This is a community. Actually, the shirt I just took off. This is a community that for whom traditional navigation is still very much alive, and here's their star chart. And it is a part of culture that they have maintained, and it was actually from this group of islands where we were that navigators were brought from to go to Hawaii to teach the Polynesian Voyaging Society the stuff they forgot over generations back in the 70s when they had the revival, kind of cultural revival began, and the Hokulea's first voyage and all that. Anyway, so pretty cool stuff. I think every other man we met there was a navigator.
Yeah, and amazing experience into this world of traditional navigation. And we got to tap into it in an interesting way, being an escort vessel for a traditional sailing canoe, sailing between islands in the Marianas.
So
But
for them, opening up a new seaway and a really important voyage that they got to take.
yeah, but this northern Pacific crossing that we did in the last year and through to Japan now, we would not have been able to do with kids because there are no other kid boats, and very few cruisers in general to even be there. And so Hawaii, we stopped in Johnston Atoll, and then Marshall Islands, Micronesia, Guam, Marianas, Japan. No kids, only really
Yeah.
possible because we're
And we'll
now
talk
empty
more about that.
nesters.
We'll
Yeah.
talk more about that in a bit. But Stephen, we're finally getting to your question around financing. Complete liquidation of assets and get on the go. Well, what's your risk tolerance and what's your age and what's your exit strategy at the end of it? I think, and I don't know what the genesis of it is. Maybe it's a bit of YouTube. Maybe it's just, well, I don't know. Like, we could speculate, right? But there's definitely a feeling of sell up and go, right? Sell all the things and go, and it's cross generational because you could say that like the parties emulated that as well. And I think, you know, our view when we left, we were late 30s. We were only going for 2 to 5 years. We thought it's so easy to reboot life at that age, right? We'd already had multiple different kinds of careers at that point. And the idea of starting over would not be a big deal after 2 to 5 years. We planned to sell our house and do the full liquidation, knowing that and then deplete it and then go back. What actually happened was that we got partway through and we're like, we really like this thing and we don't want to go back. And now what? And thank goodness for the real estate crisis that meant we did not sell our house and still had it.
The near-term downside was that we didn't have the cash behind us to keep us cruising in an easy manner. The upside was over the long range, we were able to figure it out to trickle our way along. And now the house is appreciated over the last 17 years to the point where it is our sort of retirement nest egg for at some point when we slow down. But
Wood.
yeah, touch wood, depending on what happens.
But we were in that red circle on your screen there when we were at the decision point of, well, we got 6 months worth of money left. What are we doing? Are we going to sail back to Washington and say, you know what, 2.5 years-ish, awesome family adventure, declare victory, and restart again, or we're going to carry on? And this was the subject of many deep discussions on the side for Jamie and I, but also some important family meeting conversations. Our kids were still pretty small, but they were old enough to have an opinion, and nobody wanted to stop yet. So we're like, okay. So I did a bunch of interviews and landed a job probably in Sydney, Australia, and then that became our goal for the end of the year. And we spent a year and a half in Sydney, and pulled in with very little money left in our bank account. Like, we had some no-touch money, but our bank account was pretty nearly depleted.
We celebrated when we landed with
Yeah.
buying ice cream for everybody in the family, and it turned out that was about a third of our liquid assets
Which
to
is
buy ice
partly a
cream.
comment on how expensive Oz was at that point. But yeah, so this is kids on the left. That was the day we arrived in Australia. On the right is about a year later. We were there close to 2 years, a little over a year and a half. And they decided in our family meeting then that we had again at the end of that period, got some money in the bank. We could either use that to continue to loop at the Pacific for a few years and get back to Washington State, or we could carry on. That taste of life on the other side, and anyone who's here with kids thinking about going cruising, you're going to reach that point probably where your kids are like not so sure. Maybe the grass is greener or they've got FOMO for friends at home. A really great way to convince them cruising is better is to just drop into mainstream life for about 6 months. After a stint in Australian mainstream schools, our kids were so ready to be homeschooled boat kids again.
Yeah, I think relating to finance, it's different for everybody, whether to liquidate or not liquidate. That can be risky, and you don't know that you're going to love cruising, and so selling everything and finding out you don't can be difficult. So it's kind of a more nuanced, personal set of variables in that. But fundamentally, one of the things that we learned is that the value of $100 changed dramatically from before we went cruising to after cruising. Before we went cruising, and this is especially true now with Amazon being what it is, where it's like, oh, there's a shiny thing, I want to buy it. You push the button and it shows up the next day and money comes off your credit card and you don't think twice about it. When you go cruising and you don't have steady income, or we didn't have steady income at that point, it's like, well, there's a shiny thing, but
I can wait.
we can't do that now. And so the value of money changes. And if
And then
you
a few
can,
months later, you're like, I didn't actually need that thing at
yeah,
all.
often that's the case. So if you're interested in cruising, looking at your life now, unless you're wealthy, and that's awesome, looking at what you spend money on and what can you cut back on to pad the pile of gold to make it bigger. The more money you have, it frees up choices in boat size, condition, age. That is very meaningful in how you equip it. And then it has a big impact on your cost of cruising, whether you're on the rice and beans diet or you can afford to go inland travel in South Africa, which nobody should miss if they're in South Africa.
And we
But
couldn't
but you
afford
have
to do it, but we cashed out some of that no-touch money because
it was South Africa, and
it
you
was
have
South
to do
Africa.
that, and it was
Yeah.
absolutely worth it. But there's some hard trade-offs there. We were fairly broke for most of our cruising time,
And
and wouldn't have traded it.
most of the circumnavigation with the kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our coaching business, we started in 2016, but it was slow growth because we're not good at self-promotion, and we really have grown almost entirely through word of mouth. And as that has expanded and grown, it's become really, really terrific as a way for us to do something that can help other people while being enough. Nobody's getting wealthy over here on Totem, but it's enough. And it's been enough for us to also help support our kids then as they've rolled off.
Yeah,
to
and we
independent
both had
lives.
professional careers before we went cruising and wouldn't go back to it for anything. For us, it's not about the money. It is about the experience that we've gotten along the way and the people that we've met, meeting these master navigators of traditional star navigation.
Just feels like such an incredible privilege, you know. I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's fair to say, yeah, we chase experiences, but back in finance is a little more too. It's what happens later. We've seen some, I think, uncomfortable crews who have aged out of they should not of living on their boat. They shouldn't be there anymore. They should be it's whether and a lot of that is usually it's money based. They just can't afford an alternative at that point. I think it would be worth considering that as we live longer and longer, and if you go cruising, I'm going to grossly generalize that you're hanging out with a relatively healthy group of people who stay active, that there will be a time when your mobility is not compatible with living on a boat, and then what? Then what are you going to do? Like have a plan. And our exit strategy, our aging out is, well, we hope it takes a really long time because we really love this. And at some point it'll change. And we don't know when that switch is going to flip. Will it be grandchildren? Maybe. That's a ways out. Probably. What'll it be? And it'll probably just sneak up on us as it's the right time to do. And for us, the exit strategy is we have a little bit of savings. We have enough savings to be able to help us restart somewhere, and then we have accumulated pretty meaningful asset in our house, and that would get turned probably into another kind of fund for us to draw from. And at this point, I'm 55, and Jamie's 59, and so we do hope we have another bunch of years left on the boat to keep exploring in the meantime.
Because
yeah, that
we
is
are
very-
enjoying it that much.
Well, it's very present in my mind. My mother was in memory care, and that costs an obscene amount of money to have good care. And unless you have truly spent absolutely everything and you're in a Medicaid funded bed. And I'm really grateful that it was possible for my parents to have her in an excellent care facility to be able to pay for that. And on that somber note, before we move on to talk about routing, let's pause for another commercial break.
All right, let's see how it goes.
Listen carefully now, I said in my fatherly tone. If the customs man finds out that you have turtles aboard, he'll take them away from you. Understand?" "Yes, Daddy," they replied in unison, nodding their heads. As we approached our old anchorage off Bayfront Park, the customs launch came alongside, and the officer boarded the Le Voyageur to check our documents and clear us into the United States. I was completely surprised by what happened when the officer descended the main companionway to the wardroom where we would conduct our business. For there, lined up at the foot of the stairs, were my children, all standing to attention. As the officer came to the last step, their little voices chirped together. "Sir, we don't have any turtles aboard, not even a one."
Oh, those are some
That's
really,
great.
really sweet pictures. What a story.
Great old pictures. That's a great old story.
Yeah. Thanks, folks, for the comments on our boat. We're really pleased with how that refit came out. And yes, the chain plates are quite substantial. And one of the great things, of course, that we've been able to do with modifying a lot is they were all behind installed cabinetry as the boat comes out of the factory, and all of our chain plates now can be readily and immediately viewed without having to
And
go
removed.
through any gyrations, and removed and inspected as
I had them out during the refit.
Yeah.
And Kuza board, yeah, that's,
love that.
it is a
Good.
good option, and hard to work with, and wasn't available for us in Mexico.
That was the bunk cabin had that. No,
That was a different material.
different.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. Daniel, health insurance. That's a really good question. I'm going to assume that you're American, USA national, and for us U.S. passport holders, it's an especially big question because our quote unquote system is so incredibly broken that we're used to wild expense if you don't have the protection of insurance. And the good news is that most of the medical needs that we've had along the way over these nearly 2 decades, actually, we've paid for everything out of pocket. We haven't had a single thing paid for by health insurance over the years. We have had health insurance policies because there is still that what if of a catastrophic event, and we know people who've had catastrophic events, and we don't want to be devastated forever by such a thing. We've also had some periods where we were so broke, we were like, you know what, we're going to pass on the insurance and cross our fingers and be really careful for this year. And I hate to admit that, but it's true. And and that might be coming.
But mostly what people do when they're cruising is internationally they'll get what's called travel insurance, where as long as you're outside of your home country for the majority of the year, plans differ on how much. It's relatively affordable for our family of 5. It was normally around 2,000 plus or minus for a year, not a month, to have $1 million or more in coverage. There was a high deductible of $15,000, but we never made a claim because that wasn't the point. The point was if we had a serious, big, expensive medical event, we would be covered in that instance, but otherwise everything was out of pocket. And most of the world, healthcare is
Sensible.
is reasonable and good. Not in Papua New Guinea, not in Madagascar.
Yeah, there are
Most of the
definitely
other places.
Well, and even in nearer to home in the Caribbean, there are some islands that you don't want to have to go to the hospital in, and then there are others where you're like, absolutely. Who's the latest retiree physician from France that's come to live in Martinique with great equipment? You want to be strategically sick, I guess. But we're both as fairly pasty white people, and histories of skin cancer in our family. My mom had melanoma. Jamie's had melanoma in his family. We have to be really careful. And we've gotten skin checks all around the world. Jamie just actually had Mohs surgery, a Mohs procedure on his face less than 2 months ago. No, 2 months today, in the Philippines. And it was actually not unreasonable for us to fly direct to Manila, go to a clinic, have the surgical procedure, fly back. Probably to do all that was a fraction of what our out-of-pocket cost would have been had it been done under insurance in the US. instead.
I had a Mohs procedure to remove basal cell carcinoma, and the procedure and the testing and everything was about $1,400. That that's a manageable expense. Yeah, in the U.S. it would have been a
Yeah,
different
yeah,
thing.
Duncan, totally.
Yeah,
You gotta worry about that. Um,
and I'm working on my Frankenface, but that one healed pretty
it
nicely.
did. And going to Puerto Rico was where the Mohs procedure was done in the last time around, the last time. And there'll probably be a next time, and maybe
Yeah,
we'll go back to the Philippines.
and we are good about sun protection. It's about a lifelong period in the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So routing, routing with kids is about where are the other kids, and especially as they got into teen years, it became of paramount importance and took a lot of planning at times to make sure there were other kids that were going to be around. And so this route that we took, a lot of it follows conventional westabout circumnavigation paths with seasonal flows. And so, as long as we were aware and making ourselves findable and seeking the other kid boats that were out there, we were able to align with fleets seasonally to be with other kids, with the exception of that part we mentioned earlier, which actually was over here, coming up through Papua New Guinea and going through Indonesia. Now, totally different. Now we're like, where do we want to go? What do we want to do? And so earlier this year, we were drifting with the current through Ant Atoll in Pohnpei, in Micronesia, and basically having this roller coaster ride over a spectacular coral reef. Oops, at least sorry, um
Mouse drop.
my mouse dropped
But
and I messed
Oh
up the share.
no.
I'll get that back.
yeah, our entire North Pacific track would not have been possible with kids, as I mentioned before, because we weren't in places with other kids, peers for them. Um, and related, we were in Southeast Asia, and for a lot of people, that's a place to end because the Indian Ocean looks scary. And we were still curious to cross the Indian Ocean. And so Behan started a marketing campaign to other cruisers for almost 2 years of
Yeah, I was
how
looking
about
back.
Indian Ocean in 2015,
Boats that
Indian
are in the
Ocean,
Pacific,
and ended
this
up
could be your route.
with what eight or so kid boats that crossed that
Yeah.
year, because promoting it and then getting across, and it was awesome. Our kids had the best time ever because
Hmm.
they had peers along the way.
And now this is our different route, our North Pacific route that we showed earlier, and no kid no kid boats on this route, definitely. Um, Duncan and David, those are some good questions, and my father's chimed in the quick Q&A. He would like me to share about the babies that are named after us.
We spent
Thank you, Poppy.
about 3 months in Papua New Guinea, and Papua New Guinea is a time warp. It's a difficult place to be because there's a lot of violence in parts of it, but we were able to identify where those were and how to stay away from that. And after 3 months of having intense cultural and personal interaction with local people in islands, and we sailed away.
Hmm.
We might be going back at some point, but
I hope so.
we learned within the
I've got to
next
meet baby Bean.
yeah, within the next couple of years, there was a baby Behan,
She's 11 now.
there's a baby Nile, and there's a baby Siobhan. So
No
three.
shade on Jamie and Marin. You'll get yours eventually.
That's fine. But yeah, very very special place.
And this is after we finished circumnavigation. This is the courtesy flags that had not been shredded beyond recognition. Which, by the way, I really try never to have happen. A flag, to be respectful, a flag should be in good condition.
Our Japanese courtesy flag is due for a change
It
right
is,
now.
it is due. It is edging up to. It's not going to be respectful. We probably
Yeah.
need to get it down soon.
We've now sailed Totem to 54 countries and territories, and these are the courtesy flags. And please note that is not a swastika on the
Oh yeah,
bottom
at the
flag.
bottom. That is actually the roots of the symbol actually are Buddhist, but you see it in cultures around the world. And in this case, that is for Gunayala, which is they would consider themselves an independent country. It's actually a territory of Panama, but they're carved out in the Panamanian Constitution. Anyway,
Commonly referred to as
yeah,
San Blas
San
Islands,
Blas
but
Islands,
Gunayala.
Gunayala.
Yep.
Yeah. And I guess as we sort of wrap up here, this was going to be my little plug for we do this kind of one-on-one thing, and actually, Tom, you teed up in a way a perfect opportunity to talk about it. Jamie's our weather routing service, and one of the things we do when we work with people to support them as coaches, we don't just help them get launched, we help them with the first year when they're racking their brains over how to troubleshoot the water maker or how to troubleshoot their marine diesel. Or make, actually, before our talk this morning, we were on the phone helping someone evaluate the conditions for crossing the Gulf Stream to go from the Miami area over to the Bahamas. Jamie routes boats every day, literally all over the world. But we don't offer a weather routing service, and I want to be really clear about that. There are meteorologists who do that, who do a really phenomenal job. Our view is it is one
Yep.
part of helping people be independent, happy, safe, comfortable cruisers. And some may decide at some point, actually, rather than doing that with us, they would get they'll get their own weather router as an independent service because they don't need the holistic aspect that we offer. We want to be the service that helps bootstrap someone to being able to do it on their own comfortably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
our coaching service is about education,
Yeah.
and it's supporting people to increase their knowledge to be able to get out there and be safe and have
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. And Duncan, you asked about the process as the kids rolled off the boat. Each of them, so each of them are so different, of course, from the other. For our oldest, our son Niall, it was really important to him to go to the classic college experience, four-year school, quadrangle, maybe football team, all of that. He was the one who, at like age 13, is saying, "Can our next guests bring me an SAT prep guide, please?" You know, yeah, that motivated homeschool kid who's going to figure that out his way, and he did. He graduated from Lewis and Clark in Portland, Oregon, a few years ago, and worked in refugee services post-grad. And he now works for public housing in Portland called Home Forward. And with his partner Julia, they were just here for Thanksgiving, which was pretty awesome. And our younger two kids are in Bellingham, Washington. One of them just finished a graphics design program at Whatcom Community College. The other is looking at probably a Washington State University transfer. I don't know. I went to UW for grad school. I'd kind of love to see them go to UW, but WSU has the science-based programs that they're particularly interested in, and is probably where they'll go. All three kids, though, a little different. The younger two going to school their way by not wanting that campus experience and everything, but wanting, got their own apartment, commuted to classes, got jobs on the side. Like that was what they wanted, not what they actually saw their brother went through, which worked great for him. But everyone's different. And one of the neat things about growing up as they did was that they could look at the options and think about what was best for them and make a choice. And I think most of us in mainstream America rolling through, you just kind of get pushed through the funnel to the next thing, or without actually that intentional thought about what you want and what's best for you. And thank you, Sandy. I'm so glad you appreciate our service. Yeah.
Loud and clear, you guys. What a wonderful presentation. That's just amazing. And I think one of the bottom line takeaways I've got so far is have your kids early enough so you can enjoy your life after they leave you.
It doesn't hurt.
Yeah, note to self. Who knew? Anyway, I want to thank you both so very much. This interview will be available to everyone either through the American Schooner Association, amschooner.net, or on the Great Chesapeake Bay Schooner Race website, gcbsr.org. So we'll look forward to seeing you. And this has been just delightful, and I'm sure everyone has enjoyed it as much as I have. So from us over here on the East Coast to Behan and Jamie Gifford on Sailing Totem, thank you so much for your time, and we will stay in touch.
Oh, Duncan, thank you so
Yeah,
much for
thank
having
you.
us. We appreciate you. And thanks everyone for giving us an hour of your time today. We
Oh,
appreciate you.
so awesome, so awesome. All right, my friends, take care. Keep the wet side down and the dry side up. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Take it easy. Bye.